Learning new vocab is clearly an essential part of learning a language. You can't say stuff without words. And needless to say that not all vocab learning techniques were created equally. Some are more useful than others. A situation I found myself in before now, and you may well have done as well, is when you've got a brand new list of words to learn, so you work your way through over half an hour maybe, however long it might take you to learn these words, and then you might test yourself at the end, score 100%, and then celebrate, because you finally know a bunch of new vocab in your foreign language of choice. Fast forward a couple of days, however, and poof, just like that. Most, probably not all of the words, but most of them will be gone, vanished from your brain as if they were never there in the first place. Now, you might be thinking, come on Connor, the solution is obvious. All you have to do is practice the words over and over again every single day, and then you'll remember them. And that's okay, that kind of works, but it's not very effective at really etching those words into your long-term memory, and it's just a bit unnecessary. I don't know about you, but I'm not a huge fan of burying my face in a dictionary day after day. But the good news is you don't have to. Today I want to tell you about an extremely effective tool for remembering new vocab, and that is forgetting it.
What?
Okay, just bear with me for a moment. Let me explain what I mean. We're going to need a whiteboard. Let me introduce you to Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve. On this axis we have memory retention, and on this axis we have time. Now, at this point here at the top, that's the point where we learn some new information. A word or a list of vocab perhaps, okay? And as you can see that without any revision of that vocab at all, after just a couple of days, the quality of that memory, the memory retention has absolutely plummeted until the point where we hit 0 and you've forgotten the information. No great surprises there. Now we could, at this point here, for example, after 1 day, revise the information, stop the forgetting curve in its tracks, and we hit 100% retention again, and the curve restarts like that, and that would continue every single day that we revise the vocab. Now, excuse me one moment. So, we could revise the vocab every single day, which would permanently stop the forgetting curve in its tracks, like so. That way we'd always retain the information, but that's committing a lot more time than is really necessary. Now, what would happen if you were to leave a little bit of time, say a couple of days, to allow some forgetting time, time to partially forget the new vocab that you've learnt? Here's what that would look like. Hang on. So, we've revised the information once after 1 day, that's fine. What happens then if we leave more of a gap? This is where it gets interesting. Let's say we leave a gap of a couple of days this time, top up the information. Then the next time we leave a gap of, say, a week, top up the information again. And then we leave 2 weeks and top up the information again. Every time you leave a gap, you revise the information, then leave increasingly larger gaps. It takes your brain longer to forget the information. The reason that works is because when you partially forget the information, you're working your brain harder when you then try to remember that new vocab. It's got to really work to dig it out of whatever dusty recesses it might be hiding in, and that extra work helps to maintain and work on those neural connections and really etch that new memory into your long-term memory. That is a technique we call spaced repetition. Now, this technique can be used to learn pretty much any fact, but it's perfect for learning new vocab. So how would that work? How do we turn the theory into action? It might have looked a bit complicated with the graph and everything, but the reality is far simpler. So, the traditional method involves multiple piles and flashcards. Native language word on one side, foreign language translation on the other side. In this example, we have the French word abonné, which means, what does it mean? It means subscribe. So, if we're learning the word abonné for the first time, we're happy that, okay, it means subscribe. We place that down in box number 1 or pile number 1, and that means that we're going to see it again in 24 hours time. 24 hours time comes round. We take abonné out of the pile. I think we know what it means. Does it mean subscribe? Oh yes, it means subscribe, and that means that we place it in the next box. Words in the second box we're only going to revise once every 2 to 3 days. 2 to 3 days comes around, we see the word abonné. Ooh, I think it means subscribe. Yes, we know it means subscribe, and that means we can move it into box number 3 or pile number 3, which means we'll only see it again in a week's time, and so on and so forth. So, your new words, you learn them for the first time, then you place them in box number 1, see them in a day's time. All your words in box number 2, you can see them in 2 to 3 days' time, so on and so forth. And if you forget a word, if you find that you need to revisit a word more often, you can, of course, move it back, or move it back to the start, if you feel you need to see it again another day. So that's the traditional method, but as you can see, it's a little bit impractical. You've got to have physical boxes, moving the flashcards between them, and the system's not very portable. And, well, if you try and do it on a whiteboard, then you've got no hope. But the good news is, in the beauty of the modern world, you don't have to do any of these things. There is technology that can do it for you. Apps that can take all of the thinking out of the equation. All you have to do is turn up and learn the words. Now, there are several apps that do this, but my personal favourite is called Anki. Now, Anki works like any other flashcard app really, like Quizlet for example, and it's maybe less visually pleasing than Quizlet, but what sets it apart is that we can use this technique of spaced repetition that we've been learning about. So let's see how that would work. We'll open up Anki, and here we go. Excellent. So I've got a few decks in here already, decks of flashcards. Let's create a new deck quickly, call it Portuguese Vocab. Wonderful. So we'll add a new flashcard to Portuguese Vocab. Ooh, what word should we go for? I know, let's go for inscrever-se, which means subscribe. Isn't that wonderful? So we'll add that one in there. Now let's study our Portuguese vocab. Inscrever-se, what does it mean? It means subscribe. Now, this is where the spaced repetition element comes in. Down here, you can tell Anki how easy or difficult it was for you to fish that word out of your memory. Maybe it was quite difficult and you're going to need to see it again very soon, or maybe it was pretty easy. You can tell Anki that and it's going to show you the word again in 4 days' time. Let's have a look at another deck, just as an example. Let's look at French vocab. Let's study our vocab now. We have the word abonné this time. Now, what does abonné mean? We had it earlier on. It means subscribe. Great. So, same again. Down here, you've got some options. You can tell Anki, oh, I really need to see it again. I really wasn't sure. Maybe it was okay. See it again in a day's time. Or easy peasy, see it again in 4 days' time. That is how you use Anki for spaced repetition vocab learning. So there we have it, a much more efficient way of using flashcards to learn your vocab, remembering more while studying less. If you're new around here, my name's Connor, and I make videos about language and culture. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, then hover over that subscribe button, give it a click, and you can click on that rather ghastly picture of my face up there to head over to my channel, or you can click just down here to watch my previous video. If your clicking finger's got any energy left at all at that point, then maybe use it to click on that like button. And I look forward to seeing you again in another video very soon. Goodbye.